Hey, what's up Guardians, DBL here, and we are back bringing you some Destiny Crucible Clash Mode gameplay right here on the PlayStation 4. And oh man, what a week it's been for Destiny, right? We have got so much to talk about and so little time. You know, we got the trailer for the House of Wolves, we got patch 1.1.2 coming out, no Iron Banner this week surprisingly enough, which depending on how you look at it, that may or may not be a good thing. But anyways, we are going to be talking a little bit about patch 1.1.2 in this video. There's a lot of stuff to discuss. We're probably going to be talking about House of Wolves a little bit later in another video. But today, we're discussing that big, vault space increasing patch. Now, there is a lot to go over with this patch, so we're going to be covering some of the bigger changes. And that, of course, is starting off with vault space. Your tower vault capacity has been increased to 24 slots for armor, 36 slots for weapons, and 24 slots for general items, meaning you can store much more stuff in your vault now than you could before. Now this personally is a godsend for me. It's something that I've really wanted pretty much since Destiny came out. I like to min-max armor sets. I have a bunch of different sets of the same piece of armor. Like I have 3 or 4 sets of raid gear that I equip and unequip for different purposes. You know, if I want a max intellect, max strength build, I have that. If I want a max discipline, max intellect build, I have that. And in addition to that, I like to collect weapons. I'm definitely a collector when it comes to these styles of RPGs where you have a bunch of different weapon variants. So I collect all kinds of weapons that I like to use interchangeably. And having a small vault size of, what was it, only 20 spaces was definitely not working out for me. So I am definitely super duper pumped with the increase to vault space. That was something that was at the top of my wish list. But alright, moving on, Bungie has also offered colorblind support for some of the highly color-driven gameplay elements. These include motion trackers, loot drops, shield energy, and item categories. Now additionally, they've also added in audio controls in the settings menu. You can now toggle music on and off and play around with all of the game's different audio settings. Pretty cool. I actually used it to turn up the background music audio because I love the music in this game and I definitely think it needs to be played more often. But yes, those 3 changes have been things that fans have been asking for pretty much since the game came out. You know, most people ran out of vault space long ago. And colorblind support is, I kind of want to say, it's something that should really be available for default in most games nowadays. And beyond that, audio controls are always a good thing. If you're using the Fire Team microphone option, you guys know that it's really hard to hear people, and a lot of times their voices can get drowned out in the game's background audio. So being able to manually control all of that, good idea. But alright, moving on, we have a myriad of patches and bug fixes. We're going to go over some of the biggest ones. Starting us off, the 4th Horseman Exotic Arc Damage Shotgun has had its values restored. Now, what does that mean? When were the values changed? Well, the 4th Horseman is actually a fully automatic shotgun. It was supposed to have a really fast fire rate, but really unmanageable recoil. And for whatever reason, that was changed a while back. Well, those values have been restored, and now the 4th Horseman kind of fires like a chainsaw. Seriously, this thing has a faster fire rate than the Invective exotic shotgun now. It's crazy. But of course, to offset that, the weapon has little to no range, and again, the recoil is just absolutely crazy. So it probably won't find much use in PvP unless you're right in people's faces, but it definitely turns this already beast shotgun into an absolute monster in PvE. But alright, moving on, an item lock has been added to the game that you can toggle on selected weapons and armor to prevent them from being accidentally, we'll say, dismantled. And ooh, I know there are some people out there who are happy about that. You know, whether through a moment of sheer accident or if you have kids who play on your Destiny file, I have heard tons and tons of stories of people whose Yaller horns and hawk moons were dismantled by accident, leaving them a crying mess of a guardian. And oh man, do I feel your pain. If that's ever happened to you, if anything like that's ever happened to you, let me know in the comment section below so that I can cry with you. But alright, next up, Thorn has an updated visual effect for whenever you get hit by the Mark of the Devourer. The poison is now like this green flame. It looks pretty cool. The Black Hammer's white nail perk now no longer triggers on immune targets, meaning like the Devil Walker tank. Oh, and hold up. Get it, son. That dude had spent the majority of the match just sitting in the back trying to snipe people with Icebreaker, so when this moment came around, it felt pretty good to catch him. But anyways, when you're using Black Hammer on, say, the Fallen Devil Walker tank, when you shoot its legs while they're in an immune state, that used to count as a precision hit which would proc the White Nail. That no longer is the case. The Hunter Exotic Gauntlet piece, Don't Touch Me's defensive reflex perk now no longer activates on a throwing knife hit. And the performance bonus perk on fusion rifles has been reduced to match the level of shotguns and sniper rifles. But alright, that's just a few of the small weapon and armor changes. And some of the bigger world changes, you can now wear your helmet inside the tower, which I guess is pretty cool. Now you can look fly in the tower 24/7. And for those of you who haven't yet reached rank 4 with Eris's Crota's Bane faction, her bounties now grant you more rep towards that. Ooh, and another big thing here, you finally receive weapon EXP for completing the daily mission. This is actually a pretty big change, since before, completing the daily mission would grant you EXP towards your level, towards your armor and stuff like that, but it wouldn't grant it towards your weapons, which I always thought was kinda weird. It's about time that change happened. But alright, next up we have a couple of changes to both strikes and raids. First up, Cerberus Vey, the battle against Valista Auric. Bungie has lowered Valista Auric's strength by 33%, that's pretty significant. And they've also reduced the number of total major combatants within that fight. Now this is something that's pretty big, since Bungie did put out that report a while back saying that the #1 strike that people quit is Cerberus Vey, which kind of surprised me. I don't think the battle against Valis is that bad. You know, I figured people would be quitting Omnigul far more often. But additionally, there have been some changes to the Dust Palace strike as well. For one, there are less major combatants within the battle against the Scion Flayers, and the Flayers themselves have had their elemental shields lowered, so you'll now have an easier time taking those guys out. Now, in terms of raids, there have been a couple of changes to both the Vault of Glass and Crota's End. First up, Bungie has patched a bug that allowed enemy splash damage to pass through the Aegis shield, you know, the relic shield. They've also fixed it so that the shield relic melee attacks will now land on Minotaurs more consistently. You guys who've played through the Vault of Glass might recognize this as the two problems that got you killed more than anything else. I know personally that weird health regen and the melee misses on the Minotaur has screwed me more than once. Now moving on to Crota's End, they fixed the bug where the sword would despawn after killing the sword bearer, which is great because that was a huge annoyance. The sword will also now last a full 30 seconds after being picked up. This will make your sword runs a bit easier, which is great because you probably won't have to time out the sword bearer anymore. And now finally, Crota will wait until he's fully standing before he initiates a sword attack. Holy crap, thank you Bungie. Anybody who's run sword knows to fear those random moments where Crota will still be kneeling and he'll just hit you anyway. But alright, that's pretty much it for the biggest patch changes here. There are of course a ton of other small changes. You guys might have noticed that weapon crates and quests in particular in the tower both have different emblems. They show up more prominently now. The little triangle drops that major enemies can drop are now more prominent. You can see them a little bit easier. There's been a ton of small changes like that. But we only really wanted to cover a couple of the bigger ones here. In particular for me, more vault space is probably the best thing to come out of this. And this patch has also set the groundwork for the future House of Wolves DLC. If you guys would like to see the patch notes in their entirety, I'll leave a link to it in the description box below. But alright, that's it for this one guys. We did wind up going 22-9, so not too bad on that end. And if you guys like what you saw here, do feel free to check out my channel where you can find a ton more Destiny videos coming out soon. And make sure to let me know in the comment section what you're excited about in this patch and the upcoming House of Wolves. Anyways, it's going to be it for this one guys. As always, I am the Black Link. You Guardians, stay frosty.